143 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres. I am Megan, self-proclaimed Cantina Queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book that you finished. Today's episode features a chat with returning guests, Kait Ballenger, talking about her book, Beautiful Redeemer. That is the final book in her original Sinners trilogy, and that's available now. So you can read the entire trilogy now available. I always love catching up, hitting it off with Kait and learning, just seeing how she's developing this trilogy. I really did like this trilogy, and it is dark romance. And if any of you have heard me talk about it before, that's the subgenre that I don't really gravitate towards, but she's one of the authors that I enjoy reading. And I really like where she did with the story that is just really popular in general. Now, some spoilers do pop up in these conversations. The episode is more enjoyable if you've read the book anyway. So if you don't know why I am admonishing Kait for robbing us of a certain scene, hit pause, add this episode to your playlist, and start at Original Sinner, then Wicked Believer, and then Beautiful Redeemer. And then when you're done with that, you can come back and find the interviews I've done with Kait. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards the authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I am saying what the fuck to the author for making me feel things. Just please be mindful around listening ears. Books coming out this week, the 16th. Every Lie I Told by Hilary Davidson. Hilary Davidson is going to be coming on the show in the coming weeks, and I'm really excited to get to that book and be able to chat with her about it. And without further ado, get ready, grab your favorite drink. Here is Kait. So today we've got Kait Ballenger. We're welcoming her back, talking about the third book, Beautiful Redeemer. That's the third book in the original series trilogy, and I'm so excited. It's like I just finished it. It's fresh in my brain. I love everything that you did with it. We're going to get into it. I'm so excited to chat again.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about this book.
Yeah, it was really funny because I'm like looking through my notes and I think there were so many of like, why am I so confused? Like there's information I don't have. And I'm like, oh, that's by design. That's on purpose.
Yes.
I'm supposed to not really connect the dots yet because it's like we get the first person POVs, but
yes.
Charlotte, we're learning with Charlotte. We're trying to connect the dots with Charlotte, but Lucifer and Azrael are being like so intentionally vague or like, kind of like mention it in passing, like, oh no, we can't do this. And I'm just like, why? Like what? Yeah, it just took me a minute to like really get to the bottom of character motivations, and I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And then I'm like, oh. So it was fun. It was a fun ride for me as a reader to be like, you were kind of like pulling us along, and then you were like, nope, here we go, it's going down the last like 70 pages or something, like the last 50 pages, where I was just like, oh, holy shit. And it also had me reflect, like thinking back on what I had already read, and then I'm like, okay, now all of it makes sense. Like now so many things, like little tidbits here, like if I have had a reread, I would be like, no, I know this already. Like, oh shit, I missed this the first. Like, yeah. I love it when books do that, and I imagine it's really tricky for you to do to like make that happen.
It is hard. Like it's a difficult line to walk, and I feel like to some degree I've done that with each book in the series. Like when we're talking about book 3 here, so newsflash, yes. Spoilers for book 1, Original Sinner, and book 2, which is Wicked Believer, but like when I was writing Original Sinner, like the big twist was we find out that Lucifer is the one who sent the press release at the end, and then in Wicked Believer, like there's twist about what Lilith is up to, and also the fact that Azrael happens to be Lucifer's ex-boyfriend, right? And like any number of things about like the world building. And so I knew that like book 3 was going to have that same like third act twist where it's like, oh, okay, this is the moment when everything comes together. But I think that it really, like, it feels even bigger in Beautiful Redeemer because it's book 3 and it's the wrap up for the series. And so finally, all the world building, all the moves Lucifer and Azrael and Charlotte have been making throughout the series just suddenly come together, and you're like, oh, this is what has been happening this whole time.
There's just like, maybe it's just your writing style, and like the stakes are so much higher, but it's like it helps me as a reader like connect with them more because I feel for them. Like I totally feel
Yes.
for them. I feel for Charlotte. She wants both of them, and she knew like we like both her and Azrael knew they're like if Lucifer just gets past his shit, he knows like he can have what he wants.
Yes.
And I love, although I did miss like there was a couple petty moments here and there, but I did miss a lot of like the petty king that Lucifer is. Like I just
Yes.
the humor. But this was like under the world shit, so it couldn't be too funny, right? Like you had to like wait, let's focus on this and this and you know.
When Lucifer's really taken down a peg in this book in so
Oh
many
yeah, he's
ways.
humbled a bit. Yeah.
Like, he has to be totally humbled because, like, his sin is pride, and he's like the total embodiment of it. He thinks he's the shit, right? And especially when he loses his powers at the end of book 2, right? And he spends most of this book without his power or knowing how to access it in a number of ways. And so then on top of it, like, relationship with Charlotte, not on the rocks per se, but she's also like entertaining this thing with Azrael, and it's all consensual, right? Like, we're into polyamory here, so there's no cheating. So if you're a reader listening, don't worry, they agreed to this. But
Yeah.
but it's yeah, he really gets taken down a peg, not just by Charlotte, but I think also by his siblings, by Azrael,
Exactly.
everybody. Like, poor Lucifer.
I did. I felt a little sorry for him, but I was like, I think it's just a general sympathy I had for all the characters because we're on the outside in, looking in, and it was just like Charlotte's like trying to figure out how she fits in
Yes.
with this, with everything that she has become and who she should become, she wants to become. She's not sure if she can become, and then poor Azrael is just like the longing, our yearning, like puppy dog slash.
Yes.
He's like, it's funny because it's like the juxtaposition of him like seeing that, just that aspect, like he's a simp for both of
Oh,
them, but it's
yes.
like okay, he existed before the dawn of time, like he existed when time wasn't a thing, when the
Yes.
earth wasn't a thing, when like there were emotions. He doesn't like, I love how you touch on that where he's like, I'm not familiar with this term, that's what they call it, like before any of these things existed, like he know, like he's been around, but
Yes.
he still is like doughy-eyed
Yeah.
and a little heartbroken. And I love the way that you could like kind of humanize them a little bit, even though they are like fucking ruthless, dangerous celestial beings.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know,
And I think when we think about like Azrael as a character being the angel of death, right? Like, who loves death, right? And so I was like, he would really need to be filled with like a lot of longing, right? Because Azrael as like a figure does not get a whole ton of love, right? And I also really wanted to like contrast him with Lucifer, right? Because like they're such different characters. Because Lucifer is very prideful, like at surface level, he thinks he's the shit, right? But we know that beneath that, he doesn't really actually have a whole lot of great self-esteem, right? Like that's how narcissists work, and I have no trouble saying that Lucifer is a narcissist that we love to read about, right?
it really, yeah. That's so funny. That is so funny. That's such a good point because he's like, yeah, he's in uncharted territory.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And
yeah.
then on the opposite side, I think that Azrael does have a stronger sense of self worth, but is just very in love with both Charlotte and Lucifer and really wants to be with them. So, like, they're almost the inverse of one another in that way. And I think that then when you get Charlotte between the two, like, it's the marriage of all three, and they just work so well together.
I know. It was really fun to see, like, it was like sexy, dark. I think so many of my notes were like, shit's getting messy. This is messy. This, like, the drama queen in me was like, ooh, like, how is this gonna go down? I love
And
it.
that's
I
what
love it.
I love most about Why Choose, like, as a trope, is just because you can let it get really messy, but we ultimately know, like, we don't have to pick sides, right? Like, this is not Team Edward and Team Jacob, right? Like, this is, we get both, right? And we get to have a
Right.
lot of fun doing it.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah, we're gonna get into all that. But if you could give like a summary of this one of Beautiful Redeemer, so that we could kind of get everybody up to speed.
Yeah, so the summary, the like big picture summary of Beautiful Redeemer is that We last left off at the end of Wicked Believer with Charlotte is coming into her immortal powers. She and Lucifer have agreed to open up their relationship so she can explore this like tension that she has with Azrael. And we know that they need to be opening 7 seals of the apocalypse. They're trying to start the apocalypse with the idea that then they can control it, basically. So it's counterintuitive because if they don't start it, the angels are going to start it, and it's going to be chaos. So everybody's fighting for control. We're all asking, where is God in all of this? What does he want? Like, why is he just not there? And so we enter into the beginning of Beautiful Redeemer with really these like apocalyptic level battles happening, seals of the apocalypse opening, while meanwhile Lucifer has no power to speak of. Azrael's hanging around, so they've got his help at least. And Charlotte is still like a baby immortal, learning her abilities and has really not mastered them yet. And so then the chaos just ensues from there.
I know, and then it's like kind of urban fantasy, so it's like the media it's like is like eating all this up. It's like
Yes.
scandalous and it's world destroying and it's destructive and it's life threatening and it's just like, yeah, I just kind of sprinkle that in there.
Yeah.
The whole world is watching, by the way.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
media really ends up being like a whole character in a way throughout this series because the press plays a huge part in Original Sinner in the start because that's the whole reason why Lucifer and Charlotte end up fake dating in book 1 is to restore his reputation after that fake press release gets sent that we later find out was Lucifer's fault. Like he sent it because of course he did. Because he wanted to be with Charlotte. And so there's so the press really becomes an ongoing like character throughout the series, and balancing that like as these sort of end of the world events were going on was really fun. Like this idea that especially in the current times that we're living in when it feels like everything in the world is on fire, but like we're still getting distracted by like what I would consider a lot of like just crazy stuff. I was like, that's exactly what's going to be going on in Beautiful Redeemer.
Yeah, maybe a little cathartic
Yes.
or maybe a little creative. It was like you take creative liberties, but work through it. It's just kind of like a little therapeutic, you know?
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
to be like, this is the world. Like, because sometimes I'm like, man, just burn it all down. Like, I get so bleak. And I'm like, I have kids. I'm like, oh shit. Like, it's rough out there. But I think it's so, like, we could get into it, but it's like, I think just noticing how the different generations are handling everything too. There's like, I think the generation below us, like Gen Z, they are almost like we're unfazed as millennials. I'm an elder millennial. I'm imagining you are in that boat too.
Yeah.
But like I'm gonna be 40 next year, and it's crazy.
I'm 35,
but
so I'm like smack dab in the middle of the millennials.
there you
So.
go. Yeah. Yeah, so like that those times and how we're just like we've seen these things and it's like almost like, and especially because we're approaching almost middle life, I feel like we're just like we're over it. We're like
Yes.
we're kind of like, dude, this doesn't even surprise me anymore. So I don't know. Maybe I'd be like either like I think like Sloth. He was hilarious because he's just like there's this flood and he's just cruising, like
Yes.
floating, rolling with it. And I can feel Charlotte's frustration on the page where she was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like,
Yes. Yeah. So one of the challenges for Charlotte in this book is that she really has to get some of Lucifer's siblings to cooperate with their plan, and
oh my god,
deadly sins actually like do something that you want them to do is like hurting cats or toddlers, right? Like, so the first seal that she goes to open, like Sloth is supposed to be helping her, and that goes very wrong very fast.
yeah, it was so funny because even then she's like, because I think I remember this from your previous books in the trilogy where Charlotte was like talking about Lucifer. Oh my god, he's used to getting everything he wants.
Yes.
Like, of course. And then now we see her inner monologue talking about Sloth. Like, of course they would make this big thing, this big catastrophic thing, and they would have Sloth figure this out.
Yes.
He has to lift more than one finger to do it.
Yes.
Like, of course.
Exactly. It's almost like the design of it is there are a lot of they're having to almost do the opposite of what their sin would be, right? And so Sloth, being like as lazy as he is, he's gonna actually have to do some work, and Charlotte's got to figure out how to make that happen. And on another level, I think Charlotte also gets a better appreciation for Lucifer because of this, because she's like, he's been having to herd and be in charge of these idiots this whole time, right?
Yeah, I felt for her. And then even like at one point, I love how she was like, I'm just gonna get out of PR. I need to get out of PR.
Yes. Yeah, so like,
It took like an apocalyptic event for her to be like, I'm done with this industry.
yes, like I'm pivoting to something totally different.
Like we're like having to do PR for like the siblings, or just working with them and trying to like minimize damage in both like public perception and actual physical damage. And she's just like, I'm so done with
Yeah,
this. Like,
yeah, because that's another like arc of this as well, is because at the start of this book, Charlotte is really trying to make her own identity separate from Lucifer, right? Which is a big feat because she's in the public eye, specifically because she's Lucifer's girlfriend and now fiance, right? Like everybody knows her because she is Lucifer's fiance. So she's really trying to separate herself and create something different. And she decides that part of how she's going to do this, and part of how it ties into their apocalyptic battle, is she's going to do PR for the siblings, and like, and that's going to be a great idea, and like, not so great idea.
oh my God. I feel like you could have gone to so many routes with that idea. But like I could tell you had fun with a lot of that too.
Yes.
Just because it's like, okay, of course they would be impossible to deal with. Of course they would just, because they see us as like bugs. Like they like just one, like it's not, our whole lives are nothing to them.
Yes.
So it's, yeah, I can imagine that was so fun. It showed. So there's a couple things that I do want to explore. We kind of touched on it where like, so with, you know, like we said, with book one, we're getting introduced and getting the world building and all that. We're meeting Charlotte and Lucifer and their dynamic and all the siblings peeking in here and there with the siblings. And then book two is like really, so I think I've only read one other trilogy where it followed one couple the whole time. And I love the implication, like the potential of that as to like, yeah, of course, like there's this happily ever after, but then the relationship, the troubles don't stop once they get together. It's like, what other challenges are they facing within themselves and with each other and with external too? And so like book two was like, us like seeing how they are together really.
Yes.
And then like dealing with everything, like kind of figuring out how do we go about doing this, and who are the players, what's happening, and what does this mean, and can we really do anything, like what's our game plan? And then the third is where, yeah, Charlotte's coming into her own. Lucifer's in uncharted territory in more ways than one. Like he's not, because like for book two he was not familiar with being in love. It was great. But now book three, he's like dealing with, okay, there's this woman I love, and I'm giving her freedom to like essentially explore and come back to me.
Yeah.
And it's my ex-boyfriend who I'm like never going to admit that I'm still not over. And then Azrael, he's in uncharted territory too, because he's like, he doesn't give me the impression that he's like a slut or anything like that, but I feel like he's another celestial. He's just kind of like, whatever, it's just sex, but still like having that emotion and like that companionship. And I think this was like one of the first times also where I saw Lucifer really being like insecure. And I was just like, at one point, I don't know if this is a spoiler, where he was like, does he like give you something that I don't? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, I feel for you, buddy. So I want to explore like your growth in making your characters grow and what that process was for you. Cause I imagine like you probably ping pong some various ideas of how you we're gonna get there. Like maybe the end goal was the same, but maybe there were multiple ways to get there. So I kind of want to explore your process with that.
Yeah, that was definitely an ongoing process, because like when I started into working on book three, it was really a question of how do I keep the tension between Charlotte being in the middle of these two like amazing like dark heroes, right? Like Lucifer and Azrael, but also keep a tension between Lucifer and Azrael themselves. So you're looking at like the way the tension and like, and when I say tension, I mean like the romantic development specifically goes not just between Charlotte and Lucifer or Charlotte and Azrael, but also between Lucifer and Azrael, right? Like you have to look at it from all angles. And that was really the challenge, is like looking at, I had to chart out, I was like, okay, we've got three separate arcs, okay? What's going on with Charlotte and Lucifer? What's going on with Charlotte and Azrael? And then what's going on with Lucifer and Azrael, right? Like there's really three separate romantic arcs until the three of them ultimately get together at the end of the book. And all of those had to be playing and commingling with each other, which was very like difficult to walk. And I also knew that like I needed to change up, specifically for Charlotte and Lucifer. The challenge was they've already fallen in love. They've already worked out a lot of the like some of the problems in their relationship. And this is really a point where they should be thriving, but then they've been handed this wild card of Azrael is coming into their relationship. And so I really had to dig into like that insecurity with Lucifer, because when I initially started to draft, I really wanted him to be adversarial to the idea that Azrael was coming into their relationship. And ultimately, when I tried to do that, it just didn't work. Like, I mean, there is some adversary elements between Lucifer and Azrael at the start of the book. There's like a, I don't want to call it enemies to lovers because they're never truly enemies, but there's a rivalry over the fact that they're both wanting Charlotte. And I wanted that to a degree, but it was part of the way that I got into the book. And it was specifically when I wrote the scene where Lucifer and Azrael just like completely go at it in Charlotte's new apartment and they're beating the crap out of each other. And it was during that scene that I realized, I was like, this is, yes, they're like in a rivalry over Charlotte, right? But it's about more than that. It's really about the fact that they're both still angry at each other over their breakup. And so all the different emotions had to be layered on top of one another. Because yes, like they both want Charlotte, but ultimately it's also just an excuse for them to be mad at each other because things ended poorly many millennia ago.
I thought that was so funny because I could imagine like a movie scene where they're listening for like any moments that she might be hearing anything.
Yes.
Like they all pause and they're both still on the same page. They stop at the same time and they're like waiting. Okay, hair dryer. Like
yeah. So for readers who haven't read it yet, like this is a scene where Charlotte is upstairs like taking a shower in her new like apartment, basically, that she's living separate from Lucifer now. And Lucifer and Azrael just like get into a fight in the middle of her kitchen, are tearing each other into in a way that like only Celestials can. But of course they don't want Charlotte to know that this is happening. So they're pausing periodically to make sure that she's not listening.
I love it. It's so funny.
But yeah, there was, it definitely took some development with the characters to really like nail it and get it right. Like those first 100 pages or so, I remember going over them so many times just because I really needed to like nail the baseline with them. And so the big challenge with Lucifer and Charlotte was both deepening their romance to the point that they could have this true happily ever after that they've been working throughout the series, but also like keeping the tension of, we do now have Azrael, but Lucifer has also given her permission to do this, so he can't really truly be angry at her about that. So keeping that tension. And then the struggle with Charlotte and Azrael is that we've had several books at this point to build up the relationship between Charlotte and Lucifer, but Charlotte and Azrael's romance needed to be just as intense, just as much a, ooh, I really want this to happen, but in a much shorter time frame. So that was the challenge there. And then with Lucifer and Azrael, it was, how do you take these two characters who used to love each other, who still do, but don't want to admit it, and then like make them realize they've got to put their differences aside to finally be together with this woman that they're all destined to be together with.
I loved it because it was not only like, have you done that before in any of your other books where you had to visit like a second chance-esque or second chance adjacent, essentially?
I've done second chance like adjacent romances where it's like, oh, there's a past history between the characters, but this was really my first like true second chance trope romance. And then when you add in the fact that it's my first polyamorous romance that I was writing, I was like, ooh, we're really like, we're going here.
You're like, we're gonna do it all.
Yeah, and I think the thing about writing second chance romance specifically is that, because I'll be honest, it's actually not one of my favorite tropes. So when I write a trope that isn't quite so much my favorite, like to read, I have to find a way to do it in a way that makes me happy as a reader, where I'm like, oh, if this is what second chance romance was like all the time, I would read this in a heartbeat, right? And for
Right, sure.
me, the problem a lot of the time with second chance romance is that somebody has done something that, in my mind, I consider to be like too irredeemable ultimately for them
Sure.
to get back together as a couple. And I'm like, it didn't work the first time. Why would it work the second time? So I really needed like clear reasons that both Lucifer and Azrael had been in the wrong, but also weren't. So it was like walking this line between, yes, they've hurt each other, but there was good enough reasons that like neither of them knew at the time that it's okay, they can be together again.
I know, and I want to get into it now where like the play scenes, the playroom scenes, the Dom sub dynamic, that was so hilarious and fun to like explore. So she's got two Doms, but then so does Lucifer has two subs. That's where I was like, oh, shit's getting messy. Yeah, I want to touch on that and how, yeah, like how you kind of put those together because I can kind of feel the tension and the discomfort, like where it was like they haven't approached that issue at all, and now Charlotte's like, hey, I want both of you.
Yes.
Just share me right now, simultaneously, right now, both of you. And that is like, I'm imagining they have not done that with anybody else before. Lucifer and Death have not. And so I want to like explore how like your mindset and how you had to figure that out as well. Like with, because, you know, I imagine, yeah, Azrael would be a switch, but also like it was really funny to see Charlotte's reaction to Lucifer playing around with that role too.
Yes.
I was like, ah.
Yeah, so that was interesting because like there's a number of scenes between all three of them throughout the book, but I really wanted to start it off with them seeming like warring doms, right? And we're putting ourselves in Charlotte's shoes here. What submissive woman doesn't have the fantasy of like these two hot doms like, both
Right.
wanting you, right? So I really wanted to play with that in like their first scene with all three of them together, and really letting that rivalry between the fact that Lucifer and Azrael both want Charlotte come to a head, while also like playing with the fact that they still also really want each other, like that enemies to lovers vibe of like, I hate you but I really want you.
Like, and also their body is responding to each other. Like they
Yes.
can't hide it.
Do not hide it, right? And so that was a really like their first play scene like that was really fun to write. And then from there, I was like, at some point, we can't just keep up with the warring Doms, right? And we know that Lucifer and Azrael had a relationship where it was just the two of them. So then the question became like, who was the Dom in that relationship? And ultimately, the answer that I came up with was I was like, I think they've both played that role at different points, but like what ultimately gets revealed, and so spoiler alert, like if you haven't read Beautiful Redeemer yet, is that for a long time Lucifer was the sub, right? And then he eventually learned that he liked being the top, so then Azrael became the sub. And I think when we're talking about like BDSM and kink, there are a lot of people who are switches, right? Which means that they like play from both sides of the slash. And just because you can switch doesn't mean that you don't prefer a role. And so I see
Right.
both Lucifer and Azrael as being doms, right? Like in different ways. I would call Azrael more of a soft dom, as soft as you can be in a dark romance context, and I would call Lucifer more of a hard dom, right? Like he's more quick to punish, Azrael's more quick to please.
And
Um,
even like Lucifer's picking up on that too. Like what,
yes,
she's like just obedient with him, and with me, like she pushes it. He's like, what the fuck?
yes. And I think the thing is that like Charlotte's a brat, right? Like there's many different types of submissives and Charlotte's a brat. So part of the fun of being a brat, like when you have a dom in your life, is that playful pushback of like, I'm gonna break the rules and see what happens and make him punish me. But Azrael, and I think like anybody who's been in the kink community for any length of time will tell you that brats will fold in a second for a soft dom because he's just so nice, right? And so I really wanted to play with that, like, where Lucifer's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's so quick to listen to Azrael, but she pushes back with me. But it's just different parts of their dynamic. Like, different sides of Charlotte's kinkiness comes out depending on which
Yeah.
that she's with. So I think she's more of a good girl with Azrael and she's more of a brat with Lucifer. And I think that, like, you know, when we talk about like kink archetypes in that way, in the same way as story archetypes, like, you're never just one of those things.
Exactly. Like that. Exactly. That's what I was going to touch on, is that it's not going to poor boy Lucifer asking, like, you know, what did he give you that I couldn't? And it wasn't like his fault. She just kind of needed something and she wanted both. It's like, we can't always, like, not a lot of people, like, I feel like there's a good chunk of people who are like, we can't expect everything we need from one person. And I believe that too. It's just like monogamy is like the cultural norm although I imagine there's been a lot of underground or hush hush things that maybe haven't been in mainstream until maybe like in recent years, where it's like sexual fluidity is becoming like more well known. Like it's kind of peeking its way, or at least I don't know, maybe just amongst readers, like amongst smut readers or romance readers. I was going to touch upon it's exploring that, like, what do you need and how does that affect the dynamic?
Yes.
But like out of the scene and inside of the scene, right? Like, because he, even when they like, Charlotte was like, "Oh hell no," and she was like, "I'm gonna flip the script," and then Lucifer was like, he was livid, and I was like, I kind of felt bad, but I was like, like, I was like,
it was a very brat behavior. Lucifer should not have been surprised. And we see later in the book, in one of their scenes, when Lucifer does take on the sub role, like, Lucifer himself is the ultimate brat, right? And part of what I was playing with here is there's like, and not everybody agrees with this, but there's an axiom, like a saying in the kink community, which is that a dom is just the biggest brat in the room. And I have always felt that way about Lucifer as a character. I'm like, he's just the biggest brat, and like nobody has been able to tame him except maybe death.
I was like, it was so funny because I didn't really think of how that dynamic would go. Like, I was just going to see how it was going to play out. But just knowing Lucifer from 2 books, I'm like, maybe I was a little surprised, but I also, not surprised by the brattiness, surprised that he was like, he was willing to be the sub and he enjoyed it to an extent and he was familiar with it. And like Charlotte, we're seeing it with Charlotte for the first time, how he is. And I'm like, oh my God, of course he's a shit stirrer. Of course he's like provoking. Of course he's not going down quietly. Like, so that was hilarious for me as a reader to see that new side of Lucifer. Like that.
And there's an element in this series of like, despite that it's fantasy and romance and that sort of thing, and we've got all these fantastical elements, right? Like, when it comes to the kink in the series, I try very hard to like make it as realistic as it could be in a dark romance novel, right? Like,
sure.
I want to make sure, like, we're caveating this, that like this is dark romance, so there's parts of this that are not like established kink practice, is like, don't try this at home, kids, right? Like, but
right,
like, I wanted there to be good rep for this in the series. And there is a belief actually among what would be considered the old guard of the kink community that you cannot be a truly like effective dom if you have not been a sub. And that's because
oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and so you cannot really understand what it is like to hold power and be in charge of the autonomy that somebody has gifted you, that you are in charge of their bodily like autonomy, their security, all these things. You cannot responsibly hold that if you have not had the experience of giving it to somebody in the past. And so like, and I think that's true, right? Like, some people would disagree with that. Like, there's varying debates about it, but I think that to really understand how to care for someone in the way that dom has to care for somebody that they're holding power for, they really have to know what it's like to be the one giving somebody in a very vulnerable place. Like Charlotte is in a doubly vulnerable place by dealing with two doms. So my thought was, of course, both Azriel and Lucifer would have had to have been subs in the past, and they've been willing to do this because they're going to be decent, responsible doms.
I love that sentiment, and that makes so much sense. See, I learned so much whenever I talk to you, or whenever I like dive a little bit deeper into dark romance, because I know that it's like not necessarily for me. We all, what you know, my best friend writer knows. It was that whole thing, but it's so interesting to me. Even if I'm into it, it's so interesting to me. I'm like, just it's people, right? At the very, it's us. It's who you are in your brain, in your mind, in your emotions.
Yes.
So much of that, like, because it's sex, it's pleasure and it's sex, but it's also like playing around with it and messing around with like the dynamics and the control. And that makes so much sense that a good dom has to have experienced being a sub. That once you said it, I'm like, oh my God, like I did not, that's one of the things I would never would have thought about. But once I heard it, I'm like, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
and that's like approach to it for sure.
Exactly, because like I think it would be very easy for somebody who has never been in the submissive role to like abuse or take advantage of power, not necessarily even intentionally, if they haven't been in that role before. And so the belief is that if you have been able to be a sub, then you can ultimately like work your way up to being a dom, because there is a higher level of kink knowledge and responsibility that is put on a dominant because they're the one in charge, right? When we're talking like real life kink, if you're tying somebody up in some shibari rope, you have to be able to monitor if their hands are starting to turn too blue and you need to release the ropes, and like if their circulation's okay, is their breathing too fast or slow? And those are things that ultimately require education within the kink community.
Yeah.
And so being a dom comes with a lot of responsibility, and one of those responsibilities is being able to hold the vulnerability of the submissive. And how do you do that if you've never had that experience, right?
And it is like the sub, I think I've read or seen that where it's a lot of the control goes to the sub, because they are setting the boundaries and they are setting the terms, like what they're comfortable with and how far it's going to go, and the dom is going off of that.
There's a lot of like debate about that, I think, kink community, and I understand like from the outsider like perspective that it's like, oh, people say the submissive has all the control, which I don't know that I necessarily agree with that sentiment, because the dom can also put a stop to a scene, right? They can safe word, they can say like, this is getting too intense for me.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes like almost dehumanize dominance and like pretend that they're just like, they're constantly able to perform in this role that requires a lot of responsibility and presence and all these things, right? And so what I don't love about that phrase is I think it overwhelms the idea that like the dominant doesn't have like inability.
You think that we should be careful about how we phrase it, about the language, and it's like,
yeah, dominants are allowed to have like, they're allowed to have boundaries and limits and things that they won't do and things that they won't agree to. But at the same time, I think where that phrase really comes from is that like a lot of the time we think of the power exchange itself is somewhat filtered through the desires of the submissive, right? Like the submissive is gifting their power over to the dominant. The dominant is then receiving that power, filtering it through the things that they are also willing to do and accept, and then feeding it back to the dynamic with the submissive. So when we talk about power exchange, people think it's only the power of the submissive going toward the dominant, but it ultimately just goes in a circle. Like, I don't know if that's making any sense, but
a little bit, yeah, because it's okay. I check with you, you check back with me.
yes.
I check back with you, you check back. Yeah.
Yes, it's
so
it's an
it's
exchange, right? Like,
yeah.
And so the submissive is giving power to the dominant and saying, okay, this is what I'm giving, right? Like, these are my limits, right? And then the dominant is taking that and saying, okay, here, let me filter through the things I want and my limits, and then I'm giving you back this experience that we've agreed to, right? And so it's like, it ends up being, and I don't think a lot of people outside of the kink community who haven't like really studied what's going on inside BDSM and kink, really understand it in that way, because it's not just all one-sided.
Yeah, I trust me, I smut lovers, I learned a
Yes.
lot. I learned a lot, and it
How
helped me, like,
realistic
but
for
that
that.
yeah, but it's also, like, just the format and how it was handled, like, in an educational way, like, that was at the very base level that you look at it, like, yeah, of course, there was, like, giggling and there were taboos, there were, like but, like, the workshops and everything that was presented, it was like, we're all adults and we're all here to maybe learn stuff or check out stuff that we're interested in.
Yes.